Hello again, my sweet, wonderful talent pros. Rob Stevenson here for another installment of Hiring on All Cylinders, and I'm coming at you post-recording to give a preemptive recap of what was an excellent and very informative episode. I'm just trying something new here, like any good marketer. I'm over here iterating, trying to see what works, just trying to inch the show a little bit closer to podcast nirvana. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, you're in for a treat this episode. I'm joined by the CEO of Comparably, and we discuss how organizations are getting the framing of the compensation conversation all wrong. We talk about what job seekers and employers can do if they suspect they're falling victim to wage gap issues for reasons such as gender, ethnicity, age, etc., and how my guest's company provides the actual data to really dig into those issues on both sides of the interview table. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode, so without further ado, what do you say we cast a pod?
Do you want to add value to your business, or do you want to just be this administrative person?
And often, if you look at your talent team and the caliber of talent in your company, they correlate.
You could hire the best person for the job if they were in your candidate pool.
All these individual employees, one by one, together, their voices all come together to articulate the culture of the company.
This is
Hiring on all
cylinders.
Joining me this week on Hiring on All Cylinders is Jason Nazar. He is the CEO of Comparably, a company that provides salary and workplace transparency for the benefit of job seekers. You can catch his work on Fortune, Inc., Forbes, and Wall Street Journal, and also happens to be the entrepreneur in residence for the city of Los Angeles. Jason, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Robert.
So I'm curious right off the bat. I'd heard that of entrepreneurs in residence for VC firms, but never for an actual city. So what exactly does that role entail?
It's a good question. Mayor Garcetti, the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, really mirrored this after what venture firms are doing. So this past year, I've been the entrepreneur in residence for the city of LA, and it's my job to liaison between him and his administration and all the entrepreneurs in Los Angeles, most notably the ones in the tech community where I'm embedded in. And for example, just a couple weeks ago, we did the largest ever tech job fair in the history of Los Angeles, where we had almost 15,000 people come out, 250 companies there, SpaceX, Tesla, Snapchat, Honest Company. And I think, hundreds of people are going to be able to get jobs from that one day. And so that's kind of what I've been doing on the side,
Gotcha.
Separate of running Comparably.
Right. So it's sort of a way for the city to kind of embrace the tech community?
In part, yeah, and to help entrepreneurs of, all industries.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations on that tech job fair. Sounds like it was a rousing success.
Thank you.
So did I do an all right job of explaining Comparably? I was poking around your website, and I'm pretty familiar with what you do, but do you want to, just for the listeners, kind of give some color commentary there?
Yeah, thanks. Comparably is here to make work more transparent and rewarding. And we really monitor the job market to help people do three things. One, to match you to the best possible company for your future career. So we actually have this really cool algorithm that shows you, what percent match you are with all these different tech companies and who would be willing to pay you more than what you currently make. And the second part of what we do is we let people see how much people like them are getting paid. And so we want to make salary much more transparent. We want to make sure that everybody's getting paid fairly and understands what market is. And then finally, we try to make work much more transparent by letting employees publicly rate and review their companies. And so we have, tens of thousands of companies that have been reviewed on Comparably. And if you really want to get an honest, transparent look into what it's like to work in that organization, you can do so on our platform.
Gotcha. Yeah, so transparency is obviously key, and it works on both sides, right? So there's this element where job seekers can kind of get information about compensation and company culture, but then also on the other side, there are tools for employers to do research in that capacity as well, correct?
There are a number of things that we do to help employers as well. So, our platform provides a way for employers to hire great candidates. All of our employer solutions are still free. And so in essence, we have people following thousands of tech companies and marking they're interested in working there. and then those companies have access to those candidates they can reach out to and hire for their positions. Also, all the companies get access to our entire compensation database for free, as well as they're able to get these deep competitive analytics on how their company culture compares to their biggest competitors.
That's fascinating because the compensation data, it's kind of can be difficult to come by. I think a lot of employers go to a bunch of different places and can't it can be difficult to triangulate exactly what's the correct number there.
I agree, and we have one of the largest data sets of how much people are getting paid in tech, and we can break down that data by gender and ethnicity and experience level of the candidate, obviously their location. We also know how much people are getting compensated in stock options. So, we have a really robust platform that does a lot of things different and hopefully better than a lot of what else is out there.
Yeah, definitely, especially because I feel like normally what you would find in terms of compensation data would be geographic and title, and you're able to introduce all these other elements into it, which in retrospect seems like a vast oversight in the world of assessing what makes sense for compensation, right?
That's the way we thought about it. If you're not comparing apples to apples, so if you can't see if they're similar size companies that have raised the same amount of money,
right, and
if the candidate has similar years experience, I don't think it's fair to either the candidate or the company to use that data as a benchmark. So, we believe we have some of the most accurate and thorough and specific data that you're going to find anywhere. And the platform, again, is 100% free. And that's why we have both so many people who, work at companies and the company owners they're using the platform just after 1 year of it being live.
When you talk about being transparent about compensation, that definitely speaks to the importance of having, as you say, thorough and accurate data. Does it also refer to the kind of conversation and tone and what part in the hiring process the conversation about compensation happens?
Yeah, we try to help with education there. For example, I wrote a post on Fortune called The Ultimate Guide to Equity at Tech Companies that really demystifies what equity is, how much it really counts for, all the different particularities about it, and things you need to know as an employee. So a big part of transparency is the education, not just around comp. I think most people, will tell you that there are a lot of other things besides compensation that are important to them about work, and many times how much they get paid actually isn't the number one most important thing. So we want to create as much transparency and keep a conversation going around both how much people should be getting paid, but also around what's it really like to work at these different companies. What kind of experience are women having versus men? What kind of experience are people of color having? What kind of experience are younger employees versus employees that are more tenured having? And how do the different companies stack rank versus each other?
Yeah, definitely. Those are really difficult questions to answer, I think, and for some people maybe even uncomfortable, but definitely crucial. And I'm curious, if you're an employer, if you're a recruiter, say your company, and you're looking at say Comparably's data about compensation, you might notice that your organization is guilty of a wage gap sort of issue, right? How can recruiters and employers go about correcting that and opening that dialogue internally in a healthy, productive way?
The first step is you really just need to know where you stand, and that's why we have been getting so many employers using our product, and I encourage folks to use it. So to any of the folks they'll listen to your podcast that work in HR or on the talent side or just more senior in an organization, I definitely encourage you to go to comparably.com. There's a big call to action right there on the homepage to claim your company page, get access to all of our employer tools. And by doing so, you immediately have access to all of our compensation data. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of records, millions of data points, and you can really see how the salaries break down. Now, if after that you do an analysis and you feel like, hey, there's some inequities, whether it's based upon gender or anything else, I would just start with being, honest. For the candidates, do you have in your company, are they being fairly compensated both relative to, their particular skill set, their experience and market? The fact of the matter is, Robert, there are always people that have to get paid less than the average. Otherwise, there wouldn't be an average. It's not like there's one standard salary for, a director of engineering or a product manager or a designer or a VP of marketing. And people shouldn't be offended just by the fact that they are below the average, because it could be for a number of reasons. It could be because they have less experience, or it could be because the company doesn't have as many financial means, or it could simply be because there are other benefits that they get that are more meaningful to them, like, more work-life balance or less hours that they have to work. And so, what we're trying to really do is start off by saying, hey, what is the data? And I think if both employers and employees have access to what comp data is, and if both employees and employers have a more transparent look into where companies are doing well and where they're falling down, then it's going to make work better for all of us over time. And I think it's what you said. It just needs to really start with a conversation. And I think if people have good intent, of A, wanting to make their business successful, and B, wanting to really take care of all the people on their team and reward them as much as possible, these things tend to get worked out, especially as you have access to more of the facts.
Right. So then for candidates, how can they go about, like, as you say, there's a myriad of reasons why someone may have a lower salary than someone with the same title. How can they go about being sure that the reasons why that might be the case for them are fair relative to that company's standing and other extenuating circumstances, and that it's not for something like gender?
Well, I think fair means a lot of different things. First off, fair means, do you feel like you're getting paid fairly? And whether you're at, below, or above, market, how you feel about that is a big determinant. And that's why we have a choice, when we work for a company, if we want to stay there or not. There's lots of people every single day that are going to Comparably, looking up the salary data, and then going to have conversations with their managers and saying, hey, here's what market is, here's where I'd like to be at. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of underrepresented folks that either may be women or people of color, or folks that have, sometimes they're even older, right? A lot of times what we see in the tech industry is that there's a lot of wage discrepancy, at mid and junior level roles if you're older than 50, because maybe you didn't grow up with a certain skill set. And start with getting access to the data. If after you have access to the data, you look at the situation holistically for what you're getting from the company other than compensation, and where the company stage is at, you feel like you should be getting paid more, you should have that conversation proactively. I mean, most great companies regularly build in process and procedure to talk about your comp. So whether it's your annual performance review, whether it's those happen quarterly, sometimes there's even feedback sessions that happen often as once a month. There should be a venue that companies provide to let people talk about their comp and where they want to be. And my biggest recommendation to employees is always just make it a win-win. If you can position yourself as someone that's indispensable to your company, and if you can be really clear about what the company goals are, and you can take responsibility and ownership for an outcome that's going to meaningfully help drive forward something important in the company, then good company leaders should want to be rewarding you and wanting to be advancing you for taking part in those efforts.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times where, candidates make a mistake is they don't frame it as a win-win. They don't frame it as a situation where, hey, what are the company goals? What should I be doing? And can we agree that if and when I hit these, then I should be compensated at this level? Now, if you do all those things and the company still disregards you or doesn't pay you more, especially as they're paying other people that are accomplishing more than you, then I think that might be a situation where you realize that, there might be other companies that are going to value and reward you more appropriately.
So do you think most people approach the compensation conversation in like a combative fashion?
I just think most people approach it completely wrong. Now, first off, most people don't approach it at all. Right. It's usually only when people get really frustrated or really angry that they start to have the conversation, where this should be something done well in advance. It shouldn't be something that's brought up, after you feel like you've been passed over or neglected, or it gets to the point where it's unfair. There should really be a conversation between, team member and employer or manager much earlier on, saying, hey, here's where we're going to start you at. Where do you want to be? What are your goals? As companies get larger, they often have bands they have to put employees in just to be able to create some structure.
Yep.
The big things that I think folks, do wrong about it is, they don't bring up the conversation early enough and often enough. They do it in a way where they see it as themselves versus the company. They don't think about what the company needs are also. It's a lot of times, especially if you work in a fast-growing technology company, you're trying to manage your burn and make sure that you have money to get to that next marker so that maybe you can raise more money. And so thinking about, hey, where's the company coming from and what are the company's needs and what are most important? And then also thinking about holistically, what are you getting overall? One of the big areas that I really try to coach folks early on in their career is don't be penny wise and pound foolish at the start of your career. When you're in your early 20s, when you're in job number 1 or 2, you really should not be optimizing for salary. You should be optimizing for career advancement. Because let's say, hey, you can come out of college and you can get a job for $60,000, or you can come out of grad school and you can get a job for $100,000 or $90,000. Making 10 or 15% more isn't going to meaningfully change your life, but having the chance to earn 2 or 3 times as much over the next 10 years will meaningfully change your life. And so I think often people, folks need to realize that sometimes we make trade-offs purposely to make less, so that in the long run we can make more. Now, the flip side of that is that I think employers don't always do a great job about talking about comp. I think it's this black box they make it awkward to bring up. Yep. They penalize employees for, talking about, each other's salaries. They make it something that shouldn't be talked about. And when people do bring up, where they want their compensation to be or gain a raise, they're often met, with very inappropriate, or overly harsh responses. And I think those are the kinds of employers that are going to discourage people from working from them in a long time. And I think you have to be proactive about the conversation. I think you have to come from a good spirit. And I think if both sides genuinely come from a place of win-win, which is, hey, can we agree if the company's succeeding and that I'm a big part of that personally, that we can share in the rewards together, then you have, I think, what's the best formula for success.
Yeah, absolutely. You read my mind, Jason. I was going to ask you if people often wait, if employees often wait too long to have this conversation, is part of the onus then on the employer and the HR team to proactively review, have these regular sort of compensation reviews. And so you're saying not only that, but also they need to be mindful of the tone that the entire organization takes towards comp structure?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we all want to be in a position, most of the folks that I know that are starting and growing companies, especially high growth companies, they want their team to be as rewarded as possible because it means the company succeeding. And, in an environment that's going to be competitive, where there's the talent has the opportunity to go lots of different places, the team members are going to be courted by different companies. If you're not, putting them in a position to be able to advance in their career, get learnings, make more money, you're probably over time going to lose them. There's this adage in venture-backed startups when you're talking about the most important talent, which is, if you wait for somebody to come ask you for a raise, you've waited too long. You've already lost them.
Right.
Meaning for the folks that are the most important to your company, don't ever put them in a position where, they're getting courted by other people and, they're getting offered big raises. Have those conversations early, put them in a position where they know what their comp opportunities are, or you're giving them the raises early. And I think not every company, fits the model of a high growth company where the employees have lots of opportunities to go work other places. And it's easy in those situations when you have a workforce that really depends upon you for their day-to-day employment to, not have those conversations and not be proactive because you don't feel the pressures to do so. In a venture-backed tech startup, most of the people that you hire are being actively courted by other companies.
Sure,
So
yeah.
you have to do all these proactive things to make them happy. If you're running a manufacturing company in a small town where there's no other competition, it's very easy to say, hey, this is what you get, take it or leave it. But that also builds a very specific culture at a company. It builds, the sense that it's employer versus employee versus we're all in this together. But that's why I'm saying you just have to look at both sides. Not all things are created equal. The company that has the opportunity to raise, $14 million like we did in our first year is in a different position than the small business owner who started her own restaurant. And, every salary that she pays is directly, taking away from her ability to pay for healthcare for her own family or pay her own mortgage. And so she has to look at the situation inevitably a little differently. And that's why I say I think if both sides over communicate, if both sides have the facts available to them of what compensation is for the market, of what makes for good companies, people of good intent and reasonableness tend to figure these things out together.
I love it. Absolutely. Jason, one last question for you. So Comparably has done some really exciting work in terms of matching best fit candidates to employers. Intello, we have a similar sort of product offering. I'm just curious, where do you see the whole job application, recruiter, outreach, evaluation process going in the next, in the foreseeable future?
Well, I think we're at a super exciting time. We're doing some really specific things that Comparably, where the product is still less than a year old since it's been live, and we've got so many hundreds of thousands of folks that have signed up and are using us to basically monitor the job market. I think what's happening is that you're seeing the way that people find job opportunities fundamentally changing. So let's think about how people find jobs today. Of course, so many of us use online resources, but those online resources really almost one-to-one mirror how people found jobs probably for 300 years going backwards, which is a classified model.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Some publication or some source of distribution publishes, what people are looking for, and those folks pay for it. And then, you have to go out and look, and you have to search for all these different sources, which means you're only really looking for career opportunities when you get fired or quit, or that you're imminently about to, get fired or going to quit.
Yeah.
And it also means that, you have a fragmented source of information. There's no place that you can really get access, to a full set of information. And also, most employers don't know about you. In the best case scenario, right, let's say you find companies that have done a really good job of aggregating all the different job posts. You may know about the jobs that are relevant to you, but the employers don't know about the candidates that are relevant to them. And that's really what we're solving for. And I think a lot of other people are starting to also. But we're flipping the model where the jobs come find you, and well in advance of somebody actively looking for a new job, what Comparably is basically doing is sending you notifications of saying, hey, we think this company's a great fit. This company's currently hiring for a job like yours. Hey, this company's a great fit. It's not currently hiring for a job like yours, but we think you should check it out. Or here's a company that, may not be a perfect fit for you, but is hiring for a job like yours. So maybe check that out as well. And so we have this, incredible new product you should check out. You go to comparably.com/career. You can put in your preference of what you want out of work, what size company you want to work in, what types of companies you want to work in, even what kind of office layout you want to be able to have. And then we, kind of magically behind the scenes match you and tell you what are the best companies for you. And because we have all this culture data that nobody else has, we have all these millions of ratings about companies from their own employees. It's not just about what kind of company you want to work at, but, who can pay you more than what you currently get paid, and what companies are going to be the best culture fits. So what eHarmony did for, dating, I think that's what we're really trying to do for somebody's career. And this is something new that we're just starting to put out there, and we're really excited about. I think there are other cool companies that are doing really interesting things in this space, like ZipRecruiter and Hired. And so we're excited where this, category is going to go.
Yeah, me too. The whole matching capacity is fascinating. So, like as you say, instead of waiting for like actively needing to find a new job, or waiting until you get so fed up at your current job that you start actively looking for other ones, this tool can sort of help you proactively assess for places that would be the best fit for you.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. I love it. Jason, this has been a blast. Go check out Comparably, all of you out there in podcast land. And come back anytime you want, Jason. This was really fun. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. And keep up what you're doing. I've known about Intello for a long time. I've seen, the product evolve. You all are doing a great job. So keep up what you're doing. It's a great product.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And to all of you out there in podcast land, you've been wonderful, amazing, talented, beautiful recruiters. I've been Rob Stevenson. Have a spectacular week and happy hunting.